We're live.
We are live.
Hi guys.
Hi guys, welcome to today's installment of the Get Buyer Ready call. And so it's great to have, if you're tuning into this live or if you watch the recording, it's always great for us to give us a little bit of feedback. So if you do tune into it live, just put hashtag live in the comments. And if you tune into it to the recording, just put hashtag recording and let us know any questions that you have. It's always good for us to be able to address specific questions that are coming up for you. Now, by way of introduction, my name is Drew Ennis. I'm the CEO of Hello House, and this is the infamous Scott Agate, the founder. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm excited about today's topic
Well,
because it's right in my wheelhouse.
Mate, this is it. It is in your wheelhouse. This
Yep.
is the reason why we're here today. It's the whole reason why Hello House exists today. It's all to bring negotiation as a service to the real estate industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
think we can dive into it. There's lots of subjects I think that we can talk about, but I just wanted to dive into a few very specific ones today to give people some
Yep.
value and some easy tips that they can take away and apply if they're out there trying to buy themselves.
Yeah, and I've got, obviously, guys, I can't remember the whole call, so I've got some notes here and I'm just glancing down at them. But, this is, I don't need to look at a note for this. The reality is the negotiation is absolutely, without question, a learned skill. Mm-hmm. It's a learned skill. And so there's absolutely no way that you can negotiate anything of importance in your life unless you've honed this skill over time and over, doing whatever it is that you're negotiating, day in, day out.
And a learned skill, for me, I think this is overlooked by a lot of people, means that you've made mistakes along the way.
Yep.
You've been able to workshop those mistakes and break them down to be able to better yourself to, ensure that you don't fall for those same traps again the next time around. Property buying is not somewhere that you want to learn by making mistakes. We talk about this every time we get together on the Get Buy Ready call.
Yeah.
It's not something you want to do practicing because you're spending what is possibly life's largest amount of money. It's not something that you want to practice on. So we keep suggesting that you outsource this to an expert, and it's for a very good reason. It's what you just said then. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of mistakes to get where I have that I can sit here and talk about all these areas that break down and where people fall into these gaps and make errors that cost them a lot of money, typically tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, awesome. And so when we're typically out there just in the public domain, generally introducing Get Buy Ready, and what the course encompasses and why we even created it, we always say that the course distills 28 years of expertise on the buy and sell side of Scott's over 3,000 property deals or transactions, totaling in excess of $2 billion. So when you think about a life of buying and selling real estate, you get pretty good at negotiating, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably done, it's midday now, I've probably done nearly $8 to $10 million worth of negotiation this morning alone.
Yeah.
So on different property deals. So it is one of those things where you get into a groove with it, you understand the certain buttons to push, the right questions to ask at the right time, and you really get a feel of the right play to use at the right time. Like it's a percentage thing for me. It's like, if I say this at the right time, that is going to get me this result. If I ask the question and I get a particular answer, I know that means this.
Yeah.
And it's those little nuances that you build up over time, and you've got to realize that while I'm doing this daily and I'm representing buyers on their behalf, stepping in their shoes to control the negotiation, I'm competing against agents who are doing this daily as well. Okay, they're skilled professionals. They train daily, and by training, I mean while I'm negotiating with them to buy a property, typically they're negotiating with 5, 6, 10 other people on that just one deal.
Yeah.
Now it's unusual they're doing one deal at a time. They're normally carrying 5 to 10 listings each at any given time. So you can imagine the volume of data points that they've got in terms of negotiation strategies, what works, what doesn't work, what to say to you as a buyer to get you to act in a particular way.
Yeah.
And people just don't understand this because they can do it so seamlessly, so smoothly that it comes across as general conversation, but you're being led to a decision that suits the narrative of the agent and the seller.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when it comes to, I just sort of think about, a couple of my mentors that are experts in human psychology. And they always talk about, when you're trying to sell something, trying to understand, the customer, the purchaser, the client's, emotional and logical buying blueprint. And that's why we talk about the fact that real estate agents are expert at extracting an emotional premium out of you, the buyer, because they understand human psychology when it comes to selling real estate.
Absolutely.
So how can you win against that?
So is it ignorance or is it arrogance that allows buyers to kind of think that they can out-negotiate an agent, when typically in Australia, a purchaser transacts once every 10 years. So if you're transacting once every 10 years, and we've just explained agents are doing this, more than once a day, 10 times a day, possibly in built up areas where there's lots of negotiations. Is it a buyer that's showing ignorance or arrogance in that situation? They're the only two things we can arrive at, really, we think.
Yeah, I think human nature is such that, it's often hard to silence the ego. And so some of it would be arrogance because it would carry across from, whatever profession people are in, like if someone's a expert car salesman and it comes to negotiating real estate, they may go into that transaction thinking, well, I sell cars all day long, I'm pretty good at this, but cars and real estate, they're just miles apart.
Yeah, I had the very first client I had at Hello House 4 years ago was a high-profile lawyer in Sydney, and she said to me after we did the deal, I negotiate all day for a living in a professional environment, but I would be so far out of my depth without a clue how to do this in the property space. They're just completely different, and it's the same way that you wouldn't go into any one of these very specific fields that requires years of training and on-the-job learning and try and expect to, to get the same outcome out of that as well. It's impossible.
Yeah, the other thing too, I know we're harping on this a bit, but I think we have to say it. It's like on one of the posts I put in Facebook, I talked about making that decision to go it alone and, attempt to out-negotiate a well-trained selling agent when you've only bought property maybe once or twice in your lifetime, and possibly, the last time you transacted was 5-10 years ago.
Yep.
It really is a bit like jumping into the ring, with a world champion boxer and expecting that you're going to get you're not going to get a punch on the chin, huh? So
it's a tough game for
It
beginners.
is a tough game.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive on in, mate. So today we're going to highlight some case studies which we're working on currently, and how certain negotiation tricks perform when used via email. Yeah, we talk about that often, don't we?
And SMS and phone, because it
Yep.
differs on how you use those platforms to get different responses, or does it work across all three of them? So it's interesting. I've been playing around with that this week. Going down that path of offering by email, via SMS, and via phone call, and seeing what response I'm getting, digging for information, doing each of those three things as well in different platforms, just to work out what's what, as a bit of a case study so we could talk about it today. But what drove me to this subject today is that I was in, and I'm constantly in, a lot of different property forums online. So listening and debating with different potential investors and buyers about how things should work in the property industry. What I find constantly is random punters giving other random punters their 10 cents worth of advice based on what you just said. They've bought one or two properties, maybe they've bought 3 or 4 properties in their life as well, which is great, and I wholeheartedly encourage that, and I'm grateful that these people are there. But they shouldn't be in these property forums openly telling people how to negotiate or how to do certain things when it's a learnt skill, as we discussed. So a lot of the time when I'm looking through these online forums, I'm just shocked at the advice that people give out. And that drove me to talk about it today, because you see so much of people saying to other buyers, just lowball, make a lowball offer. You know, or another one I see all the time is go and see 100 properties, offer on 20 of them, and see which one takes the lowest price. So they're not strategies. That's just hit and hope stuff. That really is just you know.
That's amateurish.
It's total
amateur hour.
It's total amateur hour, and it's laughable that this is advice that people give to other people in these property forums. So I want to break down some of those and give you actual takeaway strategies that do work in the real world.
Well, the reality is most property forums are just full of the blind leading the blind. Sheeples.
I love that term. Sheeples.
Oh, sheeples in the property forums.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
Jump into it.
Let's dive in. So let's talk about SMS offers.
Well, I use these all the time, and I think they're a fantastic, easy trick as part of my negotiation strategy. So where I use it is instead of ringing an agent and getting a long blurb about why the property should sit at X price range, or even being able to track them down sometimes because they don't even return your calls, and rather than emailing an offer to an agent and expecting an answer that's going to suit you, emailing gives them time to craft this magic response that suits their narrative.
Yep.
Get them on the phone, it's the exact same thing. They get a chance to waffle on and push you and try and convince you to pay a higher price. SMS is the one thing that gets you an instant answer most of the time. Agents are busy, they're used to dealing with hundreds of buyers a week. I find the easiest way to cut through with a negotiation and to get an answer really fast is to use SMS. Yep. So I think it's a great tool people should be using as part of a negotiation strategy. And how I use it is I'll say to people...
Don't give them the gold, mate. Buy the course.
Yeah, buy the course. But look, one easy way of using it is I'll say to people, you know, I've got a buyer that's interested at kind of 9 to 9:30 range. Are we wasting our time at that level? Really simple, you know, conversation or copy. And what I'm doing is I'm just throwing out the bait, waiting for the agent to take it. And what I want from the agent to say is, no, you're not wasting your time, come along and see it. Or yes, we've already rejected 9:30 or 9:50 and you need to be in excess of that. If you can't get a price guide, that's a really great way of getting to a property and understanding where the value sits quickly. And then you can dive into it further if it's in your price point.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to be discussing here is, as we said, little tactics and tools that Scott uses along the way, but it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah. You know, you can't take any one of these things in and of its own right and expect to get the result that you're looking for. Like, they all sort of play a hand in each other, don't they?
Yeah, and you've got to have a selection of tools to be able to use at any given time for the right circumstances. So it is definitely a puzzle where you bring it all together, but you've also got to understand all of the things that are available to you at any given time, and that if one lever is pulled, you can pull something else that's going to counteract that to your benefit.
Yep, cool.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so using leverage, what do you mean by that?
Well, using leverage is not a game for beginners. You see lots of people do this as buyers when I was a real estate agent, and they do it really poorly. So it might be saying, you know, I would use it in this instance. Let me put it this way. So I'll give you a real example. I would ring up Drew as the agent and say, hey, Drew, you know, Steve and Sally have been through 12 Smith Street. They really like the property. We've shown some interest in it. We've done our deep dive. We want to take it one step further. The only problem is they would have mentioned to you a week ago or a few days ago that we're already under offer on another property locally. We're getting pressure from that vendor, for that seller, that if we don't action it by Thursday lunchtime or Thursday afternoon, they're going to put it on the market because they absolutely want to sell. They're ready to get it on the market. They don't want to wait for us. It's already been under offer for 4 or 5 days, and they're putting extreme pressure on us. So we're going to go ahead and make an offer on your property, Drew, because this is our preferred option. But we're going to do so on the basis of where we see value because of the property that we've got under offer down the road.
Yep.
And also we need an answer by close of business Thursday or lunchtime Thursday. Really what I'm saying in that situation is we've got another property, so fear of loss is reversed onto the seller.
Yeah, we're flipping the script.
We're flipping
here,
the
guys.
script. Yeah. We're putting in a deadline without saying to you there's a deadline. So it's not us, it's the other sellers that are forcing the pressure on us. So when you do that, it's a very different conversation than if I just came along and said as a buyer, "Oh, hi Drew, we'd like to pay $930,000 for your property. Let us know how you go with the seller." Okay, great. So then Drew just steps out of there and then rings all the other buyers and sees if he can drag up the price, and then that starts, and then you might get a call back if you're lucky, otherwise he's off racing with another buyer. There's absolutely no time pressure, so they'll run Saturdays open for inspection, see if they can use your price as leverage to get someone else involved in the bidding as well. So you've got to set it up from the start, and the way to use leverage is to drop it into the conversation that you've got another property that you're under offering before you even see the property, or in the very first conversation when you talk to the agent, so that the agent can remember a week later or 5 days later or whenever it is that you say that you're interested in making an offer, "Oh yeah, you did tell me that. You did tell me that on Saturday when you came through that there was another property that you're already under offer at."
Yeah.
So for them, it feels legit straight away. They're, "Oh, okay, well then they're telling the truth." And then when they convey that to their seller, they'll say, "Well, look, it's not a lie because they told me on Saturday before they'd even shown interest in the property that they were already under offer. So I know they are." And so you have to make a decision, Mr. Seller or Mr. Seller, do you take this offer that's here right now, or do you run the gauntlet and see if any other buyers come? But this buyer is going to be gone.
Yeah.
That's how you can get the price down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So rather than paying the full price, I go slightly lower, right below where my target price is. And I use that
97 rule.
Yeah, 95 to 97% rule, which we've discussed before. And by using leverage on time like that and another property, then that reverses the fear of loss.
Yeah, awesome. And it's got to be done up front.
You've got to do it up front.
You have to be confident about running that strategy right from the get-go, and you can't be caught out. You're flipping the script on the agent here, and by doing it right in advance before you've actually gone and looked at a property and had a second interaction with them, right? Because there's no point then, you've lost the leverage.
Yeah.
Right? The agent's just going to call bullshit if you say it after the fact when you've...
Like every agent always says to you there's another buyer, as soon as you ring up and say you're interested in the property, you can almost expect that from 90% of agents across Australia, which happens to us daily. It's the same, you're basically doing the same thing. You're introducing another property that's competition to them.
Yeah.
So if they haven't got another buyer, and they've got a seller that is keen to meet the market and get it sold, then this is going to put pressure on the seller to make a decision.
Yeah. So that's a real or perceived. A real or perceived property.
The thing that you don't want to do is don't get involved in talking about the property or the address or anything else.
No specifics.
No specifics.
Vagaries here.
Totally. You just need to keep it really vague.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I love that.
It's a good one.
I must hear it a few times a day. I'm like a sponge.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about why time is always of the essence. So you mean speed here, right?
Absolutely. Speed kills is my favourite saying.
Yep.
Speed's paramount to buying success in any market. So whether it's a shoulder season that we're in now, or it goes into the cold winter depths if rates keep going up and prices keep dropping, or you're in absolute boom time, which we were in for most of the country for the last 12 months, speed is of the essence, and it's to knock out any buyer competition and make sure that you don't invite emotional end users to compete against you. So time's of the essence. We spoke about just then about using leverage, and part of that is the time of it. So you can use that to your advantage. But when I'm negotiating, I use the speed that I can generate by understanding the buying process. So my depth of knowledge around what order things happen in, the steps of the due diligence, and taking confidence in each step as I move through. So getting a building and pest report, if there's something wrong in the strata report or the building and pest, being able to analyse that quickly, know what to look for, and be able to move forward with confidence like that. So time very much is of the essence.
Yep.
You want the agents to act very quickly for you. You want the seller to make fast decisions for you, and you want to control that process by driving forward at a really fast pace as well. It doesn't mean racing, or rushing, but it means understanding the steps and knowing and being clear of that, and then moving forward through that with speed.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I think the key word for me that kept coming up then, other than speed, was the whole issue of confidence. Like, it's confidence.
Yeah.
And so there's no way someone that's not confident around the buying process is going to go fast. Like, just think about it. You're going to overanalyze, you're going to get analysis paralysis. There's going to be all sorts of things, coming into play there. And that's speaking directly to confidence. It's like I sort of think about those stages of, sort of growth or education, where you go from, and this really relates to what we're talking about here, the skill of negotiation. Most people are unconsciously incompetent around negotiation, right? It's not being rude, but it's true. If you're not negotiating property day in, day out, and you're doing it once every 10 years, then when you go into that transaction, you are unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think even if you're doing it once every 1 year or 2 years,
I agree,
because you just haven't got the runs on the board really in terms of the practice, which is the hard thing to understand how you can do something different without making a mistake and running that risk.
Yeah, well, education and practice takes you through, to that sort of third stage where you would at least need to be at, which is sort of conscious competence. Like you know what you know what you don't know. You're constantly thinking about it, but you've got to think through it. And wherever you're thinking, speed isn't your friend.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
A couple of examples where this falls down in terms of the speed part is people get a contract to sale that they need to get their conveyancer or solicitor to review. Often a conveyancer or solicitor will say, yeah, great, I can see it in 2 days or 3 days. That's simply not good enough, and it's probably going to cost you the deal.
Yeah.
Any built-up area in Australia, if the property's on the market and it's desirable and it's at the right price, you cannot wait 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's one really easy one where people make a lot of mistakes and miss out and get gazumped or get blown out of the water by another buyer. The other thing is people will see a property on a Saturday, they'll wait till Monday or Tuesday, and then they'll call the agent, property's sold. Yeah. People that were interested saw it Saturday, negotiated Saturday afternoon and bought it Saturday night. Or Monday morning, first thing when their solicitor was back at their desk.
Yeah.
You cannot wait.
Yeah.
You can't just wait and just see what happens and have a think about it for 5 days and then work out what you want to do. Another one is buyers will see a property for the first time or even not see it in the flesh, but see it online and then get told by the agent, well, you can't get in until Saturday. And that might be 5 days away or 6 days away. So we've got an open for inspection drill on Saturday. Just come along and we'll see you there 11 till 11:30. What the agent's doing is making sure there's another 15 people competing against you by the time you get there. Okay, once they're involved in that process, then they'll keep the property on the market longer while they increase the competition and let you stew on it and marinate in that emotional well-being.
that emotional mixing pot.
Yeah, so you need to control the time that you see the property. You need to see it at the right time, the right light, the right traffic flow. So you've seen it twice, so you can do the reverse of that.
Yeah.
And you need to control those things. So a lot of people waiting is what costs them as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's sort of bane of my frustration when I'm talking to people that, ring up and do a discovery call with me, mate. And they say, oh, yeah, we found something we think meets our criteria and it's open for inspection, this weekend. And so we'll just wait, we'll go and have a look at it and, and then we'll make a decision as to, whether we want you guys to come and analyse and negotiate it for us. Mate, you've already lost before you've started almost.
Yeah, it's the wrong way to do it.
You really have, right? Because we could be analysing, we could get you early access, we could be negotiating before these emotional buyers show up on Saturday. All of that is possible, right?
Yep.
That's speed.
And it's the same with auctions. We've spoken about this before here, but agents will control the narrative and have you bid at auction because it suits their timeline, right? It suits their agenda. So you've got to be able to control that negotiation to stop the auction to suit your agenda. And it's difficult to do, but that's part of the negotiation work that's learnt over time.
Yeah. Let's talk about
bidding in small
increments.
Yeah. It's a mistake a lot of buyers make is that they get involved in a dogfight, involved in a negotiation, and then just keep bidding against themselves. So, you use terms like, I only see value at 750 or I only want to pay 750, but then you'll pay 755, 760, 770, 775, 780. And what's happening there the whole time psychologically is the agent's thinking, well, every time I say no to their increase, they come back with a higher price. So I'm just going to keep saying no because I've got them on the hook. You're more and more emotionally invested in it. And when you're bidding in small increments like that, half the time I think buyers lose touch with where they actually see value. They're too much in their own head about wanting to own the property and winning the keys, and less about the actual value of it and winning the negotiation. So we talk about it a lot. We won't go into it today anymore, but the 95 to 97% rule. Understand what the market value is of the home. That is different to what the target price might be. They could be completely different. They may be one and the same, but typically market value and target price for us are two different numbers. And then we build a strategy around buying it at or below the target price. Once you know those numbers, be really confident to bid at a certain point and not move. You've done your research, you know what it's worth, you know what you want to pay, you know how hard it is to replicate this asset and when the next one's going to come along. And you won't keep getting caught in that bidding war against yourself. So don't do small increments unless you're right at the top end of the tree and you know that an extra 5 or 10 grand may secure it. That's different. But if you're going up in 5 or 10s or 20s, whatever the price point is, depending on how much you're paying, you don't just want to keep getting turned away with offer after offer. It's pointless.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
I've got a true story.
Okay.
So I was at lunch on the weekend and friends of mine were talking about their recent attempt to buy a property. And this is the story translated by the husband. So I said to my wife, top limit, we only see value up to 2.4. And so she calls him on the day and says, darling, it got passed in, but we were last. We've got an opportunity to negotiate. And he goes, oh, well, what was your final bid? She said 2750. And he said 2.4 was like, that's where we saw value. And this, without a word of lie, she's like, I don't know, I just all of a sudden had an out-of-body experience and I just found myself going, more.
Why do you think agents love auctions?
350. So needless to say, they walked away once they got rid of the emotion and actually went back to the logical, where do we see value at?
Yeah, and possibly they were bidding against someone else that was doing exactly the same thing. There's two of them.
Yeah,
yes. Because she obviously got pushed to go to that level.
Two of them having an out-of-body experience.
Who would have thought at the same time? Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, anyway. Okay, what are we doing next?
Lowball offers.
Oh my gosh.
This is one of the ones that I said at the start, and this is a really common thing that people do, and they believe that they're going to get a result by it. I can tell you now, if you get lucky, great, good for you, but really, lowballing offers is just going to fall flat on its face, and it's because of one thing. You need to engage the seller. If you can't engage the seller and either buy the property with your first offer or learn where they're at, so that you can build a strategy around how to negotiate it and buy it slightly above where you may have just started, then you're not doing it right. So you've got to engage the seller. A lowball offer is just going to get turned away. You're not going to learn anything, and then you're going to start doing what? Bidding against yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's
which
key,
is what
really.
we just spoke about that you don't want to do.
Yeah, what you just said is really where it's at, isn't it? You're not going to learn anything. You're just not going to learn anything.
No, it's a waste of time.
And also you're actually going to damage your credibility.
Well, the agents won't take you for real if you just make a stupid lowball offer, which a lot of people do, like 20% below what it's worth, because they just think, okay, well, you've done no research, you don't have a clue. I could spend half an hour educating you, or I could just go sell it to someone else, or talk to someone else and do something more dollar productive. You're not going to get much out of a good agent like that unless you're serious about the price. The other thing is, why do you want to buy properties that are absolute bargains?
Yeah.
They're a bargain for a reason. So if your lowball offer works, your ridiculous lowball offer works, unless you got really lucky, but it just doesn't happen. You don't buy quality A-grade assets, which you should be buying, rather than rubbish assets, for a bargain price. It just doesn't happen like that. You don't go to Gucci and see their, brand new top-of-the-line handbag or whatever slashed 60% off or 70% off. It doesn't happen. So luxury items.
If you get in the side lane, mate.
Exactly. Yeah, you might get the
replica.
3 seasons old, the old stuff that no one else wants. But the reality is, bargains are there for a reason, right? It's because it's a asset that no one else wants. They've got to get rid of it. They're potentially a forced seller. They're stuck with a dud asset. Do you really want to own that asset? No. I think you should better off finding the better quality asset, which we talked about last time in asset selection.
Yep.
Yeah, and then building a really good strategy around how to buy that at the right price using all these tricks and tips.
Yep. Yeah. So
low ball.
Mate, see, it's all tied in together. You know, the proper asset selection, and then obviously doing the right analysis around where real value lies, is the key. You know, rather than just thinking you're just going to sort of make this low ball offer and jag it. In fact, you might. And you might actually win the money pit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, that lowballing one was hand in hand on the same day this week that I was talking about the property online portal and some of the punters giving advice there. What went with the low ball was go and look at 100 properties, make 20 offers and see which one sticks. It's the same thing. It's this hit and hope strategy.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that if you're serious about buying an A-grade asset, there is not 20 of them worth offering on. There's not. It's just simply not. Not in any property search in my life. And I've bought 29 properties for myself and my family over my career so far. At no point did I have a choice of 20 properties to buy that I would have wholeheartedly wanted to live in or buy as an investment property. Yeah. It doesn't work. That is shit advice that you can just go and scattergun and there's so many buyers. There's so many sellers that are going to meet your criteria in terms of the right asset to select. What happens there is you're making a value decision on what you buy based on the perceived discount you're getting. So the guy that was sprouting this as an expert in the property page that I was talking about was saying that he only buys 20% below market value. I'm like, okay, wow, that's interesting. So if you only buy 20% below market value, how many deals are you walking away from? How many A-grade assets do you leave behind that might have been 10% or 11% or 17% below market value?
Yeah.
Instead, you've got this rough rule of 20% that's got no relevance to anything, and instead you're just making a value decision based on who's prepared to go that low. Yeah, that's the wrong way to buy property.
Yeah, I call bullshit on it too. Anyway.
So do I. Yeah.
You heard it first.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Except I already said it to him in the call. Yeah. Right. So you heard it second.
Okay, cool. So playing the waiting game after you offer before moving again.
Yeah, moving again on price. So this happens a lot. Buyers will call us and say, hey, I've made an offer and I've never heard back from the agent. Yeah, that's one problem because they've not asked the right questions. They've not put any time pressure on them to get a decision out of it. But the other one that people do is they'll make an offer and then they'll say, I'm just gonna let them stew on it. You know, I've made my low ball and I'm just gonna sit there and see what happens. Well, guess what? Either you're never gonna hear back or they're gonna sell it to someone else for a higher price and potentially below what it was actually worth. Someone else might have got a really good deal out of it. Sitting and waiting is not a strategy to wear them down. Okay?
Yeah.
If you make an offer that's really fair, but the vendor's above market value, then yeah, sure, sit and wait and see if that comes back to your level, because there's no point paying over where you know is fair market value.
Yep.
That's a different strategy. That's a different thing altogether. But making an offer that's low and then just sitting there and waiting to see if they'll crack is not a strategy. Yeah, it's something that can't be used in negotiation to get the best outcome.
Yep, good tip there. So out bluffing the agent and how not to get bluffed yourself.
Get bluffed.
Yeah, bluff off, mate.
Well, out bluffing the agent goes back to the leverage, right? It's using those things. It's baiting the agent to see if they'll bite. So, like I said at the start, sometimes I'll use SMS, sometimes I'll use email or even on a phone call, but I'll say to the agent, they might be saying, offers over 950, and I'll ring up and say, okay, great, look, I'm really interested, I've got a client that's interested in this property, they're only around that 920, 930, are we wasting our time here because we've already got another property we're interested in, or is it worth having a crack at this one? And they'll say, oh, no, you're not wasting your time. Well, then I know all of a sudden we can negotiate here, there's plenty of room to get this price down. It might not be over 950, it might in fact be 920, 930. So I've just baited them in there. I haven't given them anything, I'm not making offers, I'm just giving them an idea of where the client is or where my budget is, and then getting that information out of them. And the alternative, as I said earlier, is that they'll tell you, no, you are wasting your time. Look at different properties because we've already got interest above that. And it's because you say, I've already got another property. I don't want to miss that opportunity. So is this going to be in my price point or not? When you say that to an agent, a lot of them will just say, yeah, you are wasting your time. But if you just rang up and asked for a price guide, you'll get nothing but the standard sheeple response, which is offers over 950C on Saturday at 11:30.
Yeah, or you could get, they could be underquoting and just totally lead you astray.
Yeah, which is what the vast majority of our work is, unfortunately.
So the reality is you're going to get whatever they want to give, whatever they want you to hear.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to get.
Yeah, but if you ask the question a different way, you'll get a different answer.
Yeah.
And not getting bluffed yourself is going into this. Drew's spoken a lot over the course of this series that we've done about education, and it's absolutely crucial because if you know the games that agents play, if you know the process, you know the buying process and how it flows and the due diligence and what you've got to do, it's very difficult to get bluffed by the agent.
Yeah.
If you know that market value is X because you're tracking it like a hawk, if you know the depth of buyers that you're going to compete against because you've been tracking auctions and seeing how fast properties are selling, it's very difficult for the agent to bluff you. So it's education and market knowledge that is crucial to ensure you don't get bluffed. We had a client last week that we discussed that put an offer in, wanted to go it alone, put an offer in. The agent told him, we've got another buyer. He said, I don't believe you. He didn't say that, but he basically said behind the scenes, I don't believe the agent's got another buyer. The agent then called him back and said, we sold it to the other buyer at a higher price. He was absolutely gutted that he missed it. He thought the agent was bluffing him, so he would just stand still and do nothing and lost because of that. You've got to understand the game, and if you ask the right questions, you'll get the information you need out of the agents, and then that'll be a compelling reason for you to move or to sit on your price.
Good stuff. So how to test the price guide on the very first call to determine where the price needs to sit.
Well, I think we
just covered that.
Yeah, covered it really. I probably jumped into that earlier in terms of testing that and baiting it. I think that's a really good wrap up in terms of that part.
I hear that all day long.
I do that every
single phone call.
Every phone call.
Every phone call.
And I said that we talk about the case study that we're doing at the moment. So we're trying to buy between 3 and 6 properties at currently for one particular client. So we're looking at properties all over Australia, from development stuff to straight out investment properties for him. And it's been really interesting. And for example, I inquired on 6 properties that we shortlisted on Saturday on realestate.com. Only 1 out of 6 responded. So 5 agents didn't bother responding at all. I then did a round of calls on Tuesday, and Monday was a public holiday here in Queensland. Called them all on Tuesday, only got hold of 2. So 3 people still never called me back, never emailed me. So this is what you've got to deal with. You're dealing with agents that just aren't responsive. Even though they're in this high-tech world, they still can't get off their ass and give you much information. But when I got to the point of asking what will buy the property from those 3 agents, I tried SMS, email, and phone call. And I got the same answer all 3 times. So it works no matter what platform you use. And the question that I asked that got me the answers is, what will buy the property? That's it. Yeah. Okay. And then I cut through all of that bluff, all of that copy that they want to spin, and I got the specific numbers. So one of them was 800,000 as the guide price. I asked that question and I got 750 straight away. So I just wiped $50,000 off the price before we even start negotiating. Now, that's not me giving my cards away to say, we'll pay X. That was just what will buy it. Okay. So then I built a strategy on what will buy it below that again. Okay. Yeah. And that's how you can save yourself $50, $70, $100,000, even at 600 grand. Yeah, 650 grand. That we're going to make 50 grand plus savings on most of those properties.
Yeah.
And it's just from asking those very specific questions. So it's been an interesting study doing that.
So I've mentioned this on a number of our calls, and I say that the way that an agent will engage with us as a professional versus, Joe Blogs ringing up as the buyer, how much weight do you put on that? Like, is there really this sort of unspoken professional rapport, and when you ring up and say that you're representing the interests of a client that's looking to buy the property, but it's just one of many that we're assessing at the moment. Well, how do you feel about that, mate? Because I know when I hear you ask this question day in, day out, you get a professional response, and you're able to sniff. And those that don't, you're able to smell bullshit a mile away. But to an everyday person that's, got to deliver that question with confidence, do you think they'll get the same answer you would?
I don't think so. I think you need the leverage of a third party to do it. And someone that's in the industry just seems to get a more straightforward answer than they'll do with the buyers. Yep. They treat all the buyers the same for the campaign, but we're able to cut through and possibly other property professionals that are asking the right questions are going to have that cut through that a buyer just won't have. And it's always been the way. The way that I do it, though, I think makes a big difference as well. It's a very casual approach. You've seen me, as you say, do it hundreds of times. I'll ring up and say, in this instance, look, this is one of multiple properties that we're looking at. So rather than us waste our time, let's just cut to the chase. What buys it? Yeah. So then I can put it into the pecking order when I'm talking to my client. And that derives a completely different outcome, a different answer than if I was emotionally invested in it and was showing a real interest in buying the property. So try and keep it at arm's length to begin with and very casual, and make sure that they know that this is one of other properties that we're looking at. It's not the only thing that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think at
that early stage.
Yeah, you've touched on a couple of really key things there. And I don't want to turn this into a training on, psychology and communication, but the way that you connect with them is just in a really casual, conversational, confident way, where the tonality of the way that you structure the question is very, almost like it's nonchalant. It's like, if this happens, happy days. If it doesn't, we've got a bunch of properties here that we're assessing. And so it's you as the client, or you as the potential buyer representing yourself. How do you get the right tonality? How do you, have the right level of confidence? How do you know whether you're going to get the same response that we would get as a third-party expert asking another professional? These are all the things that you're sort of up against, right?
Yeah, and the only thing you can do if you're going to go it alone is ask those questions. So, ask that question to 50 different properties, 50 different agents while you're on the go. Because when the right property finally turns up, you'll be able to ask that in a casual but concise manner. Yeah. Get the answer you need.
Perfect.
Cool. That's it.
Okay, that's it for us. We've gone a little bit long, but we appreciate you staying tuned in here. Now, if you've got any questions, again, just call to action here. Got any questions, pop them in the comments down below. We love to address live questions. We get them filtering through, but it's always good if they don't come via DM, but they're relevant to the post that we've put up. And if you're not in the Get Buyer Ready course, you can enroll today with complimentary access to the Find section of the Get Buyer Ready course. And then if you schedule a discovery call and chat with one of our property coaches just about your goals and objectives, we'll see whether we can do you a solid and get you a coupon code to get the rest of the course free as well.
Well, if you're not a serious buyer, you won't be in that course. If you're a serious buyer, we'll see you in there.
Well, yeah. And then obviously if you're looking to buy a property now or in the not too distant future, again, just schedule a complimentary strategy session with us. I mean, for God's sake, it's free, right? To come and talk to us so we can understand more about you and your goals and maybe come up with a strategy for you to achieve them. Okay?
Good stuff. Thank you.
All right, bye for now.
See you next week, guys.